Hello, everyone. It's Terry Groves. Thank you for tuning in today. I have a very special guest here with me. Her name is Jeanette Walls. We are going to be talking about her novel, The Glass Castle. Thank you for being here with me today, Jeanette. I'm happy to be here. Could you talk to me a little bit about the organizational aspect of your book and your thought process with it? Well, I began with seeing my mom when I was grown up because it was a way of foreshadowing and giving a little bit of background information into the story. I was able to show that I've changed and that I was almost ashamed of my family. I then transitioned into my first memory that really encased my family dynamic, when I caught on fire. This was a great way to introduce my father and show his beliefs and how he enjoyed being different. I continued this throughout the story, telling little stories that showed the nature of my father as the timeline went on. Very interesting. How do you think your writing style and diction changed as the story went on? I attempted to write as if I were still the age I was when the event occurred. My dialect aged as I aged in the novel to make it more realistic. I tried to make it seem as though an 8-year-old or a 14-year-old, etc., was actually telling the story, so that it was easier for the reader to visualize it from the perspective of the girl that I was at the time. This also made it more challenging for me to truly embrace someone so young, so different from I am now, but it was also quite fun. I sometimes made it seem like the event was currently happening, which made my written reactions more spontaneous. I was often so engulfed in my character that I just started to sob thinking about the story. Going over everything so heavily in detail provided some closure for me, as well as helped me understand the reasoning behind many things my dad did that I just could not wrap my head around before. You did a great job with it. I've heard that there is a movie based on your book. Yes, there is. How did you feel about the way the movie portrayed your novel? I really liked the way it adapted my book. It's really weird seeing my life on a screen, but I do think that the movie did a great job. I like the contrast it shows from my successful life in New York to the life I had when I was younger. I also really enjoy the transitions from age to age, as well as from place to place. Every event from my childhood got more and more intense as the movie went on, and so did the events happening when I was adult, which was really cool. The cinematography was beautiful, of course. Although there were some differences, the movie was scarily accurate. It was amazing seeing my experiences, as well as my writing, come to life. It also did a really good job of showing my relationship with my father, as well as the urgency of my mother. That was truly beautiful. Can you go a little deeper into the relationship with your father? Of course. I've been his biggest fan since before I can remember. He was my idol. I thought he was the smartest, most amazing man in the world. It seemed his talents and his knowledge were both endless. I thought his thought process was truly amazing, and I couldn't see how he remained so positive and optimistic through everything that happened to us. As I got older and began to see all of his flaws, like how much he drank and how he couldn't keep his job, etc., I tried to force myself to hate him. Every day I tried harder and harder. Sometimes I really convinced myself that I did hate him, but it never really worked. I could never hate him. I loved him. I always have, and I always will. Why did you try so hard to hate your father? I thought it was unacceptable that I liked him, when he was the one causing us all this trouble. He was losing jobs, he made us move, and he wouldn't let us live a normal life. He was the one keeping things from us, not feeding us, limiting our resources. I tried to make him the villain, but I couldn't. In reality, he just didn't realize what he was doing. He was living in his own fantasy that I could never take him out of. He didn't realize the effect that his actions were having on us, but he couldn't help it. Besides, through it all, he was teaching me valuable life lessons and was still such a great guy and a good father. So I couldn't hate him. What do you mean by he was living in his own fantasy? I truly think that he believed everything he told us. He thought we were being chased by someone, so we would have to keep moving. He really thought he would build a glass castle and we could all live happily ever after. Lastly, he thought everything he was doing was helping us. Not sharing money, not trusting hospitals, never getting food, etc. He was so delusional, and it took me a long time to realize it. I don't see it as a bad thing, though. He was so optimistic and believed so strongly that we would succeed and reach our goal that it was almost inspiring. If you could redo your past and live a normal life, would you? No way. Although it was incredibly tough for a very long time, living that way taught me everything that I know today. I hated not having food or money and always moving, but other things were a blast. Since we were living off of almost nothing, my siblings and I had massive imaginations. We could turn everything into a toy and every situation into a game. We made the most out of everything and we were given and had such a great time. Ever since I moved out, I've never had as much fun as I did when I was younger. Dad was right. Normal people living is boring. What is the most important thing you learned when you were living like that? Definitely how to live off of very little. I am very good with managing my resources and doing things on a low budget. This has helped me do things more efficiently and save money, time, and resources. I can limit myself on how much I use, which limits how much I buy, which saves me money. I'm becoming cheap like my father was, but saving money is really useful in the long run. I now understand why he was so careful with his money and his spending. Could you talk to me a little bit about your fire incident, as well as your fascination with fire that was formed from this? It's actually quite interesting. Ever since I severely burned myself on those hot dogs, I have been incredibly fascinated with fire. If anything, the fascination has only grown. I light candles almost every day, and I have a fireplace going whenever I can. It sounds strange, but I love watching it. I love the noise that it makes, the smell, the colors, and the way it moves so gracefully. I know I may seem like a pyromaniac, but I assure you I'm not. I don't light random things on fire or play with flames like I used to. I just light candles in fireplaces and observe the fire and the way it moves. One last question. What is one word of advice you could give to any child, either in a similar situation that you were in or even a privileged child? I have a few things, all pretty universal. First, it's perfectly fine if you don't have all the popular toys or even nice clothes. Find a way to enjoy what you have and be grateful that you have it. Having less makes you more appreciative and more grateful than those who get everything handed to them. Also, make the most of every situation. No matter how awful something may appear to be, there is a way to enjoy it and even make it fun. Lastly, cherish the time you have with your family. You may dislike them at times, but they will always be there for you. You need to love them and appreciate the time you spend with them and all that they do for you before it's too late. Very nice. Thank you for coming in, Jeanette. I loved learning more about you and your novel. The pleasure was all mine. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you all for tuning in today. See you next week. Also, please buy Jeanette's book. It's in many stores, and you will really be able to learn more about her story. Also, you could watch the movie to find out even more about her life. Thank you all.